According to this poll I ran on my channel, most of you do indeed understand how the development cycle for Minecraft is going to work moving forward. But for those of you that didn't, I would like to clarify the plan is to have more minor versions coming out through the year, and that these will be able to have new content and lots of improvements too. So as snapshots are released, they will have some content for the next minor update, and they will have some content for the next major update. That is why we have this data pack system where some features are still in development and have to be enabled manually. Now update 1.20 is clearly for the next major update of Minecraft. The bundle isn't labelled as such and therefore could be a part of 1.19.3. And that's what this snapshot is for. 1.20W43A is for 1.19.3. However, we don't actually know what update the bundle is going to be a part of yet, and that reminds me, I forgot to talk about this last video simply because there are no changes to it. The bundle is as you last saw it. You're just now able to enable it through the new data pack system. So moving forward, I'm going to make it clear what update we're talking about, and we will start this video with 1.19.3. And just before we do, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with Minecraft's development. So thank you for doing that. Most of the changes in 1.19.3 relate to the creative menu. You'll now be able to access the dragon egg from here, as well as the ominous banner that drops from pillagers, and the spawner block can now be grabbed from here. It's actually found in the spawn eggs category, which makes perfect sense, because if you didn't know, you can use these two things together. By default it'll be pigs, but use a spawn egg and it will change it to that mob type. And there are some changes to the tabs down the bottom here. Gone is the iron axe or the golden sword. We had a carrot here before, a netherite ingot and a shulker spawn egg. And the reasoning for these changes are that these are more iconic visuals, which I agree with. In fact, all the changes that you're going to hear about have been done in tandem with the community. Mojang have been listening, taking on feedback to make the creative menu as good as possible. This means that nature blocks are now natural blocks. Dirt and stone have now been moved to the top of this tab as they are commonly accessed. The climbable plant blocks have also been grouped together inside of this tab. Coloured blocks have been reorganised by their gradient, which looks far more satisfying in the inventory. There are a few new additions in the redstone blocks tab, like the big drip leaf bell and chiselled bookshelf. A wall block has been put next to a sculk sensor, since you tend to use those two a lot together. The two redstone ores are included. String is now next to tripwire. And boats with chests were put here too, since they interact with hoppers. In functional blocks, signs have been moved higher up in the list since they're used quite often. This is where you'll find the ominous banner and dragon egg, and the lectern, lightning rod and note block was also added here. In consumables, you'll find water bottle and also milk bucket. In the tools and utilities tab, bone meal has been added and golden tools have been put between iron and diamond. In the combat tab, TNT and end crystal was added. And lastly, snowball was added into the crafting tab. Probably because it can be crafted into a snow block. There were also a few other minor reordering of blocks as well. So in 1.19.3, the shield has been somewhat buffed. There were 4 different types of explosion that have been overlooked. The end crystal, for example, problem being that you can't punch it while you're blocking, so I don't really have a way to demonstrate that it blocks that damage. It is the same thing with the respawn anchor if you use it in the wrong dimension. If I hold down right click, you can see I block after it's blown up. But if you happen to be next to the explosion, if it's set off by another player, the shield will now block it. The other 2 explosion types were the bed. If you use it in the wrong dimension, of course it blows up in the nether and the end. And last of all, ghast fireballs. In fact, I can have a little fun here, if it ever decides to see me. Okay, this is more like it. Aha! There are also a couple of minor changes to the chat reporting tool. The first one being the ability to save a draft. So when clicking back, you'll have some new options to continue editing, save as a draft, or leave and discard the report. There is also mentioning of the chat report screen, showing when the player being reported rejoins the chat. I was, however, unable to recreate this scenario. And with that, we get to move on to the 1.20 stuff. The colours of the camel spawn egg have been tweaked slightly. And so has its walking animation. Yes, ever so slightly different if memory serves me correctly. There was also a bug causing a sitting camel to replay its animation if you log back into the world. Not terribly exciting, right? There are only mostly minor changes to this stuff. When it comes to signs, the hanging signs are no longer able to be placed underneath a fence gate. And the reason why should be fairly obvious, it doesn't quite align with it. The spacing of a hanging sign's text has also been expanded a little bit, as some of these letters here in the middle could overlap one another. So vertically, they're slightly further apart. The other way in which signs could be placed would cause mobs to spin around when on top of it. That's because they didn't understand it using their pathfinding. Let's go ahead and see what happens when we put a villager here. Yep, look at that. It knows it can walk across the hanging signs. So with that, we can confirm that mobs can now use them for pathfinding. And out of curiosity, I wanted to see what happens when we set it up like this. Oh, you can still make it across, can you? Oh no, you fell down. So running speed, it can make it across, but walking speed might not be so lucky. Here's another idea. How does the zombie do walking across? Yeah. So this might find a use case somewhere, but I'm not sure if this is going to be it. As you can see, it makes its way across. That time, though, it did fall down. Not as good as a pair of trapdoors, though. I would also like to take a moment to address the Chiselled Bookshelves. Many of you left comments about this block from the last video that I did, so no, unfortunately it doesn't interact with the enchanting table. That's if the bookshelves are empty or if they're full. These blocks do not interact with pistons, dispensers or droppers, and they don't interact with hoppers, which I think might be a missed opportunity. Fortunately, the team over at Mojang have actually addressed this. They've confirmed this block will not be pushable by pistons, but they are going to make iterations based on community feedback. So there are some obvious suggestions for what could be done with this block. But what I think would be really cool is if where you clicked on the block defined where it would go in the bookshelf. This would not only lead to more combinations of the block's texture as you put books in different slots, but also for the ability for the player to remember what's in each of them and then to pick them out individually. And also its interaction with hoppers would make it a great book filter, as only books can be pushed into the block from a hopper. Those are just a couple of my ideas. And I guess this next change is immediate because the new skins are available in the launcher. And just to jog your memory, there were 7 of them in total. When you go to the skins tab, you're now going to see them after Steve and Alex. And they are, as you saw them before, now they're selectable, so you can click on use to equip it, and then you can rotate them around and check them out in detail. There were also a couple of things that I missed in last week's snapshot. One of them is related to carrying mobs through the sky when on leads. So the issue here has always been that they accumulate more and more fall damage the time that they're on your leads. If you want to transport them through the air like this, by the time they hit the ground, they're going to die. Of course, you could drop them in water too. So I've had them on the leads for a minute. Let's now gently drop them down. It seems like they were able to survive. And based on its remaining health here, I'm going to guess it was the last part of the fall that did the damage. So on a fresh piggy, if we really fling it downwards, yeah, it dies. So what you probably want to do is stop the bouncing and go down slowly like this. And yeah, look at that, it took way less fall damage. So the trick now is just to gently maneuver them onto the ground when using leads. If a rabbit is killed, it will now always drop some meat. And upon death, Skulk Shriekers were resetting their warning level back down to 0, which they'll no longer do. And on that note, we reached the end of this video, so please do leave a like to support it. And if you haven't seen my Minecraft Discussions playlist, I'd really recommend you go and check out the awesome content we've been putting together there. Hopefully you'll find something interesting, so head over there after watching this video. And thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.